I clicked on more than I wanted here. William Miller. Notice this is 1782. So this is after the Revolution, and we now have the United States. But William Miller is considered responsible for 4 American-type religions, homegrown religions, the Adventist ones, and Seventh-day Adventists. The others are like the Shakers. You ever heard of the Shakers? They're really great making furniture. You buy Shaker furniture, which is like good furniture, cheaply made, but strong, wicker chairs and stuff. Yeah, really.
That's in this country?
Yes, yes. Well, the Shakers were famous because they shook.
Like,
Yeah, they shake because of the spirit that's entering them.
and they've given themselves that moniker? Or you?
I think so. They're called the Shakers. By the way, they also believed in not having children. As a result, I think there's like 1 left. Are there any Shakers left? We can ask. Are there any members of the Shaker religion left? The answer is celibacy. That's another word for not having children. You heard the story of the monk who was looking through the records in the basement of the monastery, and he got all upset and he started hitting his head on the wall. He was furious. And another monk said, "What? Are you okay? Are you okay? What's the matter?" He said, "Yes, it's celebrate, not celibate."
Those are very different things.
Yes. Okay. So, so the Shakers, they're so the secret, of course, is anyone that's an Adventist. These are the latter days. So Jesus is coming, and in fact, he famously figured out which day it was going to be. His interpretation of the number of days from the prophecy timeline and its relation to the 70 weeks, etc. So he actually calculated exactly when the second coming was going to be, plus where it was. For some reason, they all gathered in a place in New York. So thousands of people all showed up for the second coming. And guess what? It didn't happen. So he revised his thinking. It was interesting. He kept people from being angry with him and thinking he was a dodo. He somehow convinced people that he just made a slight mistake, and so they were convinced. I think there was even another 1844 bestseller. And so Millerism I've never heard anyone else except the internet call it this. Although you could read like Marsden's book that I mentioned, kind of a history of American religion, and you end up seeing that the 4 religions, the Latter-day Saints obviously are one. And by the way, Joseph Smith's father took him to Miller's lectures in the fields, etc. So did I say Miller? Joseph Smith, right? The founder of let me say the name right, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That church. is considered a Millerite religion because it's a Latter Day. Jesus is going to be here any minute. The second advent, right? So what is that second advent, etc.? The great disappointment, obviously, we're still here. Didn't happen. So Jonathan Edwards is connected to this through these kinds of interconnections and emphasis or impact. Well, here's Barclay's home in Rhode Island, which is kind of neat. I've never gone there via Google Earth. I should do that. It'd be fun. Obviously, he returned to Ireland, and as a result of his disappointment, he's not going to be able to found the college in Bermuda. So he headed back to Ireland, where he lived as the Bishop of Cloyne, and he wrote books, and it was clearly for his benefit of his diocese that he was writing those books, because it was a very poor area. So he was writing medical books in the hopes of finding cures for problems that his parishioners had, using quinine water. It was it worries me that some of the people that used to go around selling homemade medicines were selling medicines based on his recipes and stuff, and they were usually kicked out of town. Some rode out on a rail, which they literally carried them out naked and tarred and feathered on a stick.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of punishment. I think it actually killed some people, because tar is hot. They put the tar on you, burns your skin, and then they cover you with feathers. So you're tarred and feathered and carried out on a rail. Don't screw with the townspeople, etc. So my quiz question for you today was, what did you think of Jonathan Edwards? So look him up a little bit, read some of his letters. I mean, Jonathan Edwards' letters. I don't think I have anything there, but if you look at letters to a who's going to come up? A new convert, okay. So this is his letter to the person. Well, let's see which friend this is. So the problem, of course, is once you were saved by him in church on Sunday, and you got home, you were like, now what? So he's got people that write letters to him. He said, okay, you saved me, and now what? Basically. So I would advise you to keep up as great an earnestness in religion. Stay excited about your religion, as if you knew yourself to be in a state of nature and were seeking conversion, etc. Do not leave off seeking, etc. I've been saved several times myself. I don't know about any of you. Sometimes I thought, I could ask people, have you been saved? I think I might even ask that in the test as one of the test questions if you're interested. But what does it mean? And of course, I guess the closest person to me that experienced a dramatic event was my sister, who she got her master's from Bryn Mawr in social work, right? And her specialty in later life was working with people who were dying. And she's still alive, although she's having medical issues. But in any case, the experience she had was that she, as a young person, didn't feel connected, and at some point she ended up joining a group of kind of cult-like religious people, and she was absolutely convinced that they were right, and she would come home and try to save everyone in the family, because she was worried that, the end of the world was coming and we were all going to go to hell because we weren't a member of the cult. And that was kind of amazing to see a person go through that kind of experience. And of course, I'm curious enough to try to figure out what exactly was going on with this. So remember, when we address our philosophy, our worldview, what we're thinking about is changing our narrative. Our meta-narrative is the story that basically explains who we are. Did I do my square of my cognitive map? I never gave you a cognitive map. I only have a couple minutes, but my cognitive map, which is, cognitive mapping is like how you can visually imagine the interrelationships between different ideas that are all abstract, right? So I think, this is the I on this side, so that's where I have one direction is the self over there and the we over here, right? And then I have up here certainty, down here uncertainty. So those are my cardinal directions, so to speak. We're born up here, so we enter into the map at birth. And at birth, the reason we're up at this corner in my mind is, you can make your own map, by the way, is because we're selfish, we're self-centered as infants. We feel our own needs and comfortableness and so on. And so, we're hopefully certain because of mom taking care of us and doing a good job, right? And the family, of course, you need a village, right? But as we go across and continue to grow, we become used to the certitude that's there in the home, in the way that our family views the world, and so on. But then when we enter into the education system in the United States, the standard education system, public school, you get pulled down because part of what we teach is history. History is legal, although history is, if you think of it, a meta-narrative that teaches you this is how the universe has worked, right? We've had just the same kind of narrative that I've been giving in this class. This is the history of ideas, basically. And so you start off moving towards uncertitude, because science is essentially hypothetical, right? They come up with a hypothetical explanation for something, everyone tests it, discovered what's wrong with it, and then they come up with a new hypothesis. So as they say, funeral by funeral, science advances, right? Because it keeps destroying so we end up being drawn down towards the center. And the problem is, if you end up way over here, this is really where suicide is a big problem. Because you're totally focused on the self, but you have no connection to others. So you're basically lost in every way. This is you're standing on the bridge in a cold and rainy night, and you thought there'd be someone by now, but there's no footsteps on the ground. Nobody's coming to find you, right? This is teenage angst. You've got nothing, right? Down here, literally, you can see that if you're focused on the self, but you have uncertain about everything, that's where you are. Up here is actually the best position to be in, because here you have absolute certainty, and you're totally focused on the we. So I put like the Pope up here, maybe local, preachers you could put up there, this. So this is certitude, and this is the best most comfortable position to live in. But at the same time, this is the general drift of most Americans. If you end up down here, you're absolutely uncertain about everything, but you're concerned about the community. So this is like the liberal position. I put Richard Rorty down here as one example, because your main concern is the best interest of everybody, and you have no idea how to achieve any of those goals. So you're way the heck down here, right? This is very frustrating, for people, right? Very liberal in every way, actually, which is why the Liberal Party can never agree on anything. We're all in agreement that they're wrong, but none of us know what's a better way to do anything. Oh well, I'll quit though.